I said it last time. I joked last time I got whiplash from going from Batman Year One to Detective last week. Going back again to Batman Year One again, whiplash in the other direction. I mean, my head's just been just flying back and forth.
Yeah.
It's funny how like I just settle back into it though. Like I get to that first page and see the art, and immediately I'm just kind of like, yes, this is it again. Yes.
Yeah, and this is I'm sure we spoke about this before we started Year One, but this is unique because at least as far as I know, neither of us ever read Year One in any other way except just sitting down and reading the whole thing.
Yes, which honestly, this worked really well as a single issue, as a separate chapter. I thought.
Oh, I agree. It was
yeah.
just you say there, you got right back into it. The fact that you even had to is kind of a unique situation for us.
Yeah, it starts with the pouring rain again, the atmosphere of the city. Gordon having his trouble, and it sets up the SWAT team that are kind of ruthless. Gordon hears about this hostage situation, and he rushes over because he has to get there. He has to get there before Brandon and his men go in. It even calls them the lunatic Gestapo. That's what he actually calls them in his narration.
Yeah, last time they didn't even leave the statues standing.
Yeah, and Gordon does he holds the gun up and he puts it in the ground and sort of makes it clear that he's going in, and he knows Barbara's watching at home. We see that, and he goes in and talks the guy down as best he can until he sort of subdues him just with his fists without any shots being fired, takes care of it, and we hear the we hear that the SWAT team are pissed about this because he humiliated us. He went in there and took it on himself. He's bad for business, basically. And Loeb is like, yeah, I know, Flass has told me this a couple of times himself, but we have to play it smart.
The problem is he got the job done, so it looks good.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of montaging here as it's going through the dates, and Gordon firing his gun. He doesn't want to be in violence, but he has to because he says he hates his job multiple times. It's really playing up just how much the city needs someone. It needs the hope that Batman might bring it. I think that's one of my favorite things about Year One is just how much the city needs it. It needs someone.
Oh yeah, the place is an absolute shithole.
Or more to the point, Gordon needs him as well. Because Gordon's like the one man trying to keep the city together. Try to stick to his morals and his ground.
Yeah, and it's all this personal stuff for him because obviously he's got a kid on the way, and he's like, this can't be where they grow up.
Yeah, in fact, I love because the first few pages are all Gordon, right? It's all Gordon. And at the end of his little montage, I mean, it's not even the end actually, because we'll get back to him, but there's a panel of him sitting up at night waiting by Barbara who's sleeping, and the last thing that he says in the narration in that panel is, how could I screw up so badly, bringing an innocent child into life in a city without hope. And the next panel, which notably is not boxed in like the other panels on the page, it's completely wide, so it inherently feels more cinematic in a weird way, because
it just feels bigger, doesn't it?
Yeah, it opens up a little bit more compared to all the panels on the page, and it's just this wide shot of the rooftops and the cape, Batman running in his cape, and we've not even seen him yet in costume. This is the first glimpse.
Fifth page of the issue before you even see a single panel with Batman or Bruce.
Yeah, for any variation of him, and I love this idea. What we've just said there, the city needs it. Gordon needs something, and even though Gordon obviously is not going to immediately see Batman as an ally, there's going to be this turmoil. There's going to be this arc, into a city without hope. And the very next thing you see, this is like an editing trick. This is like if this was a movie, this is cutting to the very thing that's going to answer his concern that he just had. This is cutting to the thing that's going to address that concern.
It's moments like this that make this one of those books that you can hand to anyone who has never read a comic before. You could hand this to someone who doesn't even have never seen a Batman movie before. And it would work because of just the way that narration is set up. City without hope, bang, Batman for the first time in the issue. It's okay, I get it. I understand what you're doing here.
Yes, and I love that it's quiet. There's no narration. It's silent. You get the impression of just the visual of it, as opposed to, because you could have easily have had his last box that says "In a City Without Hope." That could have easily been on that panel. They could have bumped that down to be the top of that panel, but they chose not to. They made a specific choice to have that panel be completely clean and just have the silence of the city nighttime kind of like vista as Batman's running. It's the mood, it's the atmosphere, it's all these things. It's the narrative choices and structure and how to place things. And it's one of those things that we don't always talk about when we're talking about comic books. We don't always necessarily sit down and review the flow of the panels, because sometimes it's worth doing, sometimes it's not. And this is an example to me that sticks out as just being really perfect, where they really put thought into it, and it felt like a moment. I felt excited by it, even though I've read this a couple, more than a couple. I've read this movie like 4 or 5 times, and I still got excited when I went to that panel. I was like, oh.
I would say even the coloring of the sky. So like on the left hand side of the panel, it's dark, and it's still night regardless. But the panel before, when it's Gordon, there's a full moon out, but the sky is the dark blue color, like maybe even a purple.
It's like he's going towards the light in the sky.
Yeah, and then this panel with Batman, the first like left hand side of that is that dark color, and then it fades into this lighter blue, like it's like the dawn's coming, and Batman's distinctly in that dawn side.
To use a Batman related quote here, it's always darkest just before the dawn, right? Not that they came up with that, but it was in Dark Knight. I thought it was applicable here. Really good stuff. And Barbara's helping him, giving him a massage. He's meant to have a night off. But of course, this is when the stories of the bat. Some sort of giant bat is attacking people, and we get the first fight scene. I think what I love about this, and I know something that Matt loves actually, is when Batman's just not a complete badass who can do anything. Like he is struggling here, and he's making mistakes. And the entire setup of this fight scene is that he's fighting on a fire escape, and he knocks one guy over the edge. So he goes to grab him because he says, "I'm not a killer. I can't let him fall." And the entire time he's holding this guy, the other two. It's one in particular who he knows is more of a threat, because he's sort of eyeing him up and sort of thinking about what his strike's going to be. Is like, he's going to strike me regardless of the fact that I'm holding this guy, and if I let go, he's probably going to die. We're high up enough that it's probably going to kill him. And
yeah, I mean, you said that's the second guy who does that. The first guy tries to smack him in the back of the head with a TV.
Yes.
I say tries. He does hit him in the back of the head with the TV.
And I love that as this ends and he's eventually able to pull the guy up and just knock him out kind of on his own terms. And even just the time aspect of this, of the TV falling and the TV landing on the ground, and it gives us an idea of how long the fall would have been. Just beautiful little touches like that.
It's a great combination of how big the fall is, yet still... Okay, there's only a finite amount of time yet, so that's how quickly that he's processing this and actually doing this as well. It's a great way of doing both at the same time. Yeah,
but the final panel of that scene, which is like takes up half of a page, is the final words in his narration are "lucky, lucky amateur." Like, I love the idea that he is being so critical of himself. That he's not thinking, "I have to do this and I have to do this." He's like, "No, I messed up there. I am. This is pathetic. I'm not doing good enough." Like, yeah. That mentality is so interesting. And I haven't paid too much attention to the dates at this point, but obviously we're kind of going through the year a bit quicker.
A month ahead of where we were then. I think that was early April.
Yeah.
April 9th, I just checked. It was early April. This is May 15th now.
Yeah, so we're jumping ahead in time. So Batman's I love the sketches in the wall behind Gordon. He's giving the speech of like what the Batman might look like.
Yeah, the first one is like basically Man-Bat.
Yeah. So, and Flash is there, and what's so great about this is that obviously in the first issue we had the whole scene where Gordon had to beat up Flash to sort of make it clear that he couldn't be picked on, and Flash is sitting there with a neck brace on, and he's got like a broken arm, he's got a sling, he's like, the Batman, he's like 8 foot tall, and he's this, and he's supernatural, and he's an entity, and he's all this, and we get this scene where the rest of the squad room are basically giggling and laughing at him, because he sounds like a scared child who's talking about this ridiculous thing. Even the dry humor here of him saying that, oh, I got a random tip, an anonymous tip, that there was a cocaine delivery happening, so I was single-handedly apprehending the entire mob. That's why I was there.
Yeah. And it's just him getting his cut.
Yeah, and I love where I love his Gordon's narration or his narration, but he's like, oh, he waits for people to challenge him to see if anyone's going to say anything, because that's completely bullshit, and they all know it's complete bullshit.
Yeah,
but
it's just in the narration. It's not anyone saying it. But one of my favorite lines is one of the felons I had not yet disarmed produced a 357 mag. I was like, yeah, of course not.
So good. And obviously this scene also introduces Sarah Essen into the mix. She's there. and seems to be the only person in the room who, I mean, and it's only through a couple of simple actions, but she seems to be the only one in the room who's actually in support of Gordon, whereas everyone else is clearly waiting to be impressed.
Yeah, it's just someone like she lights his cigarette for him.
Yeah, and even just the way she was looking at him, like, because the first time you see her, or the second panel you see her in, she's just kind of looking over at him as he's looking down at Flass. And then we get this big scene where Batman infiltrates the mayor's mansion. And the mayor's got, Falcone there. In fact, this is the first time we even properly see Falcone. I don't think we saw him in the first issue, right?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah. And, it's like, no, this Bat character's doing this and this, that. And they're basically dismissing him, and Batman's doing detective work. He's outside, and then he makes his big grand entrance. But obviously what's really notable here is that he keeps hearing complaints about Gordon. He's like, I keep hearing about this Gordon, like he's pissing off all the right people. And that's kind of what's letting Batman know that he's maybe someone that could either be trusted or be an ally, or at the very least is not someone that should be on his target list.
Yeah, he's like, well, that's a cop I can assume is honest, at least.
Yeah. So really good. But yeah, so it's as they're gloating, it's like, everything will be fine, as long as the people of Gotham are, think they've got this hero, they'll ask fewer questions and we don't have to worry about anything. They mention Harvey Dent, is pushing for convictions and things like that. Yeah. And Batman throws in a smoke grenade.
He cuts out the lights and says it's showtime.
Yeah. And we get the famous panel of him in the smoke in silhouette, saying,
it's
ladies...
still gorgeous, isn't it?
Oh, it's beautiful. Ladies, gentlemen, you have eaten well. The double meaning in his sentence there is wonderful. And there's no light, so one of them, like, they've got like a barbecue in the room, and they lift it to reveal the flame, and the flame kind of lights them from underneath, which is, it's always been a weird panel to me, because every time I see it, just at a glance, it looks like he's got a mustache.
Yeah, okay, that's what you say.
Every time I see this panel, it looks like he's got a mustache. Yeah.
Not reflects, shadows.
The shadow, yeah. But yeah, but it's just Batman sort of declaring war on them, essentially. Your feast is over from this moment on. None of you are safe. He
looks at himself just to show them enough for them to be scared.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, he cut the lights himself, but just this enough light to give it this dramatic effect, and then shuts it out completely.
Well, it's a power play. He's showing that he can get to them. The fact that he infiltrated their mansion where they feel the most safe. Yeah. It's like, I can get to you. You have to be worried. So there's one day of May 20th where Loeb's just yelling at Gordon, you have to get this idiot. You have to get this vigilante. We can't dismiss him anymore. And then so we see that they're actually setting traps where they've got, I think it's Essen, pretending to be mugged. It's all a ruse, but Batman's just watching going, they're putting a lot of effort into these traps. I'm not falling for this. It's good stuff. And meanwhile, you're seeing Falcone being tied in his bed and be like, we have to get this Batman idiot. He dies. He's done. And we even get that Batman is talking to Dent, and Gordon even thinks Dent might be Batman. He's like looking at his weight, his weights, and he's like, oh, you work out? Got to keep in shape, eh? It's just stuff like that.
Then this is where we see, no. Batman's already got a relationship here with Dent.
Yeah, he's hiding behind the desk, which is important because Batman's going to show up in a minute, and it's something that could feel really convenient, except for the fact that we know Batman was literally right where Gordon was. He's in the vicinity. It really sets that up. And also, this is the first scenes as well that Gordon's attracted to Sarah Essen, and he's having some thoughts, and obviously, he says he could kiss her. It's kind of an awkward moment, and I think until we get to the other issues, we can't go into it too much, but I think there is something to be said here that Gordon, who is up until this point almost been this goody two shoes beacon of light for the city, who does not break the rules, I think it's an interesting and perhaps necessary tactic to give him a flaw, to show that he is human. And
because it is undoubtedly shitty, right?
Yeah.
He's. I mean, not just it's fine for him to feel this way at the moment. He's not doing anything at the moment, but like you say, he has to have a flaw, and when he has a very pregnant wife at home, maybe don't go looking at the other women.
And I think what's genius about this issue, because the last issue we didn't really get any of his wife, but this issue we have the whole montage at the start where she's rubbing his neck and trying to be there for him and
cooking him dinner, and
it really, you know, makes us sort of like come to appreciate what she is in his life. So it makes us feel doubly bad when he has this kind of quick thought here. But this truck, you know, almost rams them. Rams for this homeless person who's got a shopping trolley, and what's so great about this is that, you know, Batman sees this happening. We see him on the rooftop in silhouette, sort of hear this is happening. He leaps down into action. Gordon's going to do the same thing. And what's beautiful about this is that it's showing you that they're both alike. Well, they're both leap into action immediately.
I love that they take different approaches as well, though. Like, so Gordon actually doesn't go for the person; he goes to the truck. He's like trying to get in it to the wheel and turn it. Out of the, whereas as Batman just dives to get the person out of the way.
But notably, Gordon is doing this while he's still in the car, and he's like, "Ashton, take the wheel," and he's trying to, like, you know, he's still being reckless in a.
Oh yeah, he jumps out of the car and he jumps out of a moving car onto the next fan.
And notably, the art here, both his actual leap and Batman's leap down are both in silhouette. They're coloured the same way to show that they're doing similar heroic acts at the same time, and to show that they're two, you know, they're two peas in a pod.
And both use a light as well as an anchor point. So, you know, Gordon's leaving to the, you know, as the headlights, and Batman's using the street light.
Yeah, and then of course
it's very similar.
And Gordon says, you know, it's over, I've blown it. But then of course. And this is kind of setting up the entire point of year one, right? Is that Gordon is trying his best and he will accomplish a lot, but when he can't quite get the job done, Batman can be there to do it. That's kind of the whole point.
The backup got him covered. Yeah.
And even though he doesn't know it yet, this is the first big example of it. And of course, all the traps have not worked to capture Batman, but that's because he knows they're traps. This is someone who will actually die if he doesn't leap in, so he leaps in. And this is what leads us to our cliffhanger, where Essen's got the gun on him, all these other cops show up, and they go after him, and they get shot in the leg. He runs into a building, and unfortunately for Gordon and Batman, he gets the call that Brandon and his goons are being called in, which again was I almost said conveniently. Conveniently is not the word. Expertly was introduced earlier in this issue, so that we understood who they were and what a big deal this was. And the helicopter starts dropping fire bombs on the set, so the colouring goes nuts as we have obviously the orange and the yellows, but there's even a bit of pink in there just to give it a kind of.
There's a pink and a purple. It's extreme, yeah. It is because, you know, the building lights out was already due for demolition, so no one's in there. So
other than maybe a few derelicts, as it points out.
Yeah, which is, I mean, fairly dark already.
Well, no, what I love about it, though, is that, you know, he's Gordon's assured that there's no one in there because it's demolition, other than maybe a few derelicts. The person that both him and Batman just went out of their way to try and save was a homeless person, which is exactly the type of person who would be in an abandoned building. It's beautiful the way that they both leap to save this person, and then immediately the commissioner, the mayor, whoever, are just writing off. There may be some homeless people in there, but it doesn't matter.
Well, they're like, a couple less homeless people to worry about.
Yeah, it shows again their attitude being the same but also different from everyone else. It's beautiful stuff. Final page is the actually that was the final page. Was that the film? I don't know. It's hard to tell.
The final page is the squad walking in, right?
I wasn't sure if that was the cover of the next issue or the final page of this one, to be honest. It could have been either.
That's a good point.
Honestly, like I think it may be the cover. I want to say that's the cover of the next issue.
It is, actually, you're right.
Yeah, the explosion itself's the final moment, yeah.
It works for both.
It does. It actually does work for both. But clearly, fantastic issue. Honestly, some of the small things we were pointing out there on the art, I wasn't even thinking about when I was reading it. It was just as we were sitting dissecting it that I'm looking at it going, oh, hey, that's really smart.
They're just, even if you're not consciously aware of, that's what they're doing.
That's what good storytelling is that, I mean, we love to sit and dissect it because we love revealing it and discovering it and like sort of thinking about it, but good storytelling for most people who just consume it is just there under the surface, and you know. Yeah,
absolutely. It's like there are movies that we've done reviews for that I've watched 10, 15 times before and enjoyed a lot, and I'll then we'll do a review, so I'll watch it with a more critical eye. I'll actually pay attention to the tricks that it's doing, and I mean, those tricks are there whether you're watching for them or not. They're working on you whether you're watching for them or not.
Yeah, because in some ways you'll notice some more stuff in a movie you've seen 15 times already because you're thinking that way. And then I think there's also some things that both of us won't even realize until we talk about it. Where even though we've seen it 15 times and we've looked at it critically, it's not until we actually start firing the ideas back and forth that we get to the point where we go, oh wait, it did this really smart thing.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many things that we've reviewed across all mediums that we do, that where we've said, we came into it with this opinion, like, we were going to give this an 8 out of 10, but after talking about it, we actually like it more now. After a half hour, 40-minute conversation,
or sometimes less. That's also possible.
Yeah, we've talked ourselves down as well, but just having that discussion and actually kind of developing those ideas has changed our opinions.
Yeah. So once again, this kind of proved to me why Year One, when I hadn't read it in a long time, is kind of the special book that it's sort of, and for me is definitely better than Dark Knight Returns. I think it's the better of the two. I probably said that last time, but I'll say it again because this was fantastic.
I mean, I will say that as well on a gut reaction from memory, but it has been years since I read Dark Knight Returns. So
I always loved the first issue of Dark Knight Returns and wasn't in love with the rest of it. That was always my feeling with it.
That's fair. I liked it. I think I like it more than you do in general. Then
the animated movie is really good, though.
That's so good. But I mean, I'm sure we'll get to Dark Knight Returns at some point on this show.
Yeah, I'll probably like a vote one that was the end, the final slots, rather than, because obviously we're already past it in terms of this timeline.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the when we, like, one of the vote slots at the minute is Emperor Joker. That's mostly going to be miniseries, shorter runs, things like that. Dark Knight Returns, that'll slot in there at some point for a vote, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right, what are you giving this issue?
It's a 9.
Yeah, 9 out of 10. I'll give it that too.